Hey YouTube viewers, this is Donnie Smith and welcome to this video series that is designed to help you pass the ASE exam. Now this video series is specifically for the paint refinish, and what we're going to do is we'll go through the task and give you the knowledge to pass the test. What this is not really your prep test type book. It's not just test questions. If you want that, there is a link down in the description. You can get more information about that. What this basically goes through all the tasks that you will need to know to pass the test. In this video, we're going to cover feather edging. Now, feather edge is the process of layering each layer of coating, all the way down from the substrate up to the top surface, maybe a paint or clear coat or whatever the top surface is. It's kind of like stairs compared to a ramp, a ramp for a wheelchair. If you look at the steps, they're real steep, real noticeable. You can visually see them. And you can think of that like the layers of paint, the hard edges. And if you look at a ramp, it's a smooth transition down from the bottom level up to the top level. It's real smooth, so that a wheelchair can easily roll up and down it. Now, to be able to have that ramp, have that smooth transition, that's going to take a longer area than steps would. So feather edging is the same process. We need to take those layers of paint like steps and layer them out, at least 1/4 of an inch for each layer. So a small chip, might start out small, but by the time that you get this layered out properly, get it feather edged properly, it's going to be a bigger area. So areas that you need feather edging are places where you did body work, where you sanded and block sanded, have those scratches. Those may need to be feathered out so that you can minimize those scratches, and that might require some feather edging. If you have any rock chips, like we mentioned, you need to be able to feather that out, make that transition from the substrate to the top of the clear coat, without it being noticeable. Other areas may include key scratches or scratches from the accident. That may go from the top of the clear coat surface straight down to the metal, and that leaves a hard edge that you can feel. Well, you need to feather that out so that it's not as noticeable. The different layers that you may have to feather out may include like your E-coat, your primer coats, base coat, and your clear coat. And there's some other ones, like if it's a tri-coat and things like that. But however many layers of coatings that has, those need to be layered out, and you need to have a ring or an area, at least 1/4 of an inch, to help provide that smooth transition. Feather edging is done using a DA sander, a dual action sander, and 220 is generally the most common sandpaper grit that is used. Now, when DA sanding in the last video, we mentioned using the interface pad for final sanding, but remember that was because it follows the contour of the body lines and things. Well, we don't want that. We don't want it to follow, the paint edge, the hard edge. We want it to level across that. So if you use that pad on there that's going to follow that contour, it's going to be very difficult to get that feather edge smooth and get those coatings out, the 1/4 of an inch like we want them. So that's why you don't want to use that interface pad. Use the DA pad that has a harder surface, and it'll cut across and level those layers much better. Now, feather edging can be done using a block, hand blocking it out with some 220. However, that's going to take a lot more effort and time to do that. So if you don't feather edge correctly, what this may cause is rings. It may not have been noticeable, until you got the car painted and clear coated and you pull it outside and you see rings. You look down the side and you can see a ring, or it may even have multiple rings where you can actually see the different levels of the different coatings. So the way to prevent that is, like we mentioned, sand each layer at least 1/4 of an inch. And if you feather edged, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and prime that area and block sand it. So proper feather edging, priming, and blocking the feather edge area, that's going to produce an area that you can't see. It's unnoticeable after the car has been painted and clear coated. Okay, now a couple of ASE style test questions. Now these are just examples, but let's say Technician A says feather edging may be used to sand rock chips. Technician B says that an interface pad should always be used while feather edging. So is it Technician A, Technician B, both A and B, or neither A or B? And the correct answer is Technician A. Remember, rock chips, feather edging is used to sand rock chips. But Technician B says an interface pad should always be used while feather edging. Remember we talked about the interface pad, how it follows the contours? Well, we don't want that. We want to level the surface. So Technician A would be the only one correct on that. Now, one thing I'd also like to mention right here, this is not always true, but kind of, as you know, just red flag to put up on this Technician B. He says Technician B says interface pads should always be used. Now, whenever they use always, never, words like that, you should always wear a paint respirator when spraying, and of course that's true. But it does need to raise a flag to where always, a lot of times that's hard to say if you always have to do something. So just let that raise a flag and question that. Okay, and one more. Technician A says 220 grit may be used for feather edging. Technician B says each coating should be feathered at least 1/4 of an inch. Who's correct? Well, both are correct. Remember, said feather edging, 220 is the most common grit. It may not be the only grit. I mean, there may be others out there that use something different, but it is one of the most common. And look for that word there where it says Technician A says 220 grit may be used. That's one of the things that raises a flag. Technician B says that each coating should be feathered at least 1/4 of an inch. And that's what's recommended, that the layers be feathered 1/4 of an inch. So that's going to be both Technician A and Technician B. It is my goal to keep these videos short, so that's all we're going to cover in this video. Just give you little chunks at a time, let you absorb that, and then you can watch the next video. Down below is a link to the test prep books that I have, but also there's a link that'll take you to all these videos if you're wanting to go through more than one video at a time and take you through the entire playlist. So be sure and check that out to go through the ones that I've already uploaded. And as they become available, they'll also be put on this site as well. Thanks for watching this video. I hope this helps, and good luck with your ASE exam.